Now, I know I say this every single Sunday, but tonight we have a very special episode. It's my very own worship pastor from Life Church South Oklahoma City, and her name is Jessica Davis. Y'all, getting this point of view of her faith walks and where she's been and the woman she's grown to today is so crazy because you never get to really hear what it's like being a worship pastor during the pandemic or just being a worship pastor in general and what it took for her to get to this moment. So y'all sit back, listen, and really take heed to every single thing that she's going to say because it's so unique. It's so special. And I'm just incredibly thankful to know her. So y'all sit back and listen right now. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Talks with Darius, Deon. I'm so thankful for all y'all that are tuning in and downloading each and every episode. It just means so much to me. But today is going to be such a special episode because I have my worship pastor on and she means so much to me. Guys, being here since November, I've just grown and learned so much about the Lord and just deepened my faith in him. But before I get too sappy and talking about so many things, I'm just going to let her introduce herself. She's going to tell you her name, her occupation, and just a fun fact about her.
Okay, fun facts are my favorite. My name is Jessica, and I'm a worship pastor here at Life Church South Oklahoma City, and we have been so blessed to have you on our team, Darius. Definitely just love getting to worship with you. But I've been here at this campus for 4 years, but I have been a worship pastor for 15 or more years, honestly. Many different capacities. Starting with just leading worship for the youth group at, some of the churches around town. But it's been a journey and it's been an honor to get to do that. And so yeah. And a fun fact about me, there's so many fun facts. It's hard to narrow it down. But, God made me without any wisdom teeth. So there you go.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. But I'm smart, I promise. Sort of.
And guys, that leads me into my question. How has the pandemic been for you, Jess?
Oh, well, pandemic has definitely been a lot. I can say that I can see a lot of scenarios in different people's lives and the things that they've gone through and can say that I'm blessed to have my job, to have a home, to have my health. So in this grand scheme of things, man, the pandemic's just been a small bump, but it has been a really interesting one in learning how to do ministry under a brand new context and how to help all of those who have been walking through some truly, truly difficult times. Yeah. And so as a pastor, that's where it becomes difficult, is the how my heart breaks for people and how can I help. And so we've had to be creative in how we lead and how we pastor. And it's been exciting to see some of that creativity and to see what God does through it, but it's also been somewhat difficult. Yeah. So yeah.
And what are you looking forward to now that the pandemic is maybe wrapping up, maybe coming back?
Oh gosh, I hope it's wrapping up. I'm looking forward to worship nights, which we have one coming up in September. Things where we can gather together and not have to worry about illness, but also not have to go through all these hoops and things like that. Yes. It really, from my perspective, life feels like it's getting back to normal, but I would really love to see all the people return to church,
That's beautiful. I mean, that leads me right into our faith walks discussion. And Jess, I want to ask you, what is your personal relationship with God?
Well, it is a very tumultuous relationship sometimes, I would say. I've been a Christ follower since I was 8. And so I started very young, grew up in church, and my mom was always taking me, and I went to camp and had this amazing experience and just truly understood that I was a sinner that needed help, and that I had this Savior. And I just remember such a beautiful encounter with God at that time. But I've had a lot of ups and downs since then. I didn't really understand what that meant until maybe my teenage years, and following Jesus became real in my teenage years, but we also, I think, can grow up and by no fault of the church or wherever we are, can sometimes fall into that trap of legalism, you know, where my relationship with God is based on what I do or what I don't do.
Yeah.
And so that became a difficulty for me. And so I have struggled with mental health with depression mainly since I was about 20, and it's been an ongoing piece of my life. So with that, a lot of things have been up and things have been down, but God has remained, and that is what I cling to.
Amen. I mean, what is your personal testimony that led you to this moment of being a pastor and being here today?
Yeah, well, it's always been something I've wanted to do as far as worship is concerned. Music has been my passion from basically day one, and the church, the local church, has always been a passion of mine, and I can't even explain why, except that I know that that's where God called me, and He really confirmed that for me when I was 18, about to graduate high school. And so I went to college with that in my mind, and but in college, like I said, with some of that mental health struggle, there was just a lot of performance-based things that kind of got me, you know, just a little bit off track as far as where exactly God would have me. But, you know, I did faithfully follow and serve in any way that I could. I just did it with a lot of more difficulty than I probably could have if I had maybe learned my lessons earlier in life. So yeah, it's been a calling on my life that I've known, and I've, even though I have definitely struggled with that calling at times and thought, man, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not cut out for this, or maybe this just isn't what I need to be doing anymore. But God has always reminded me that this is something I was actually sharing with you recently, that His calling is new every day, and it's in every moment. And it might look like leading worship at a church right now, but it might look like, leading in another capacity somewhere else. And it's all about just following in the footsteps of God, as far as every interaction that He brings us is a calling to serve and glorify Him. So,
amen.
Yeah.
I mean, that leads me right into my next question. As a worship pastor, how do you stay so rooted and connected with God yourself?
Yeah. Well, I will say, first and foremost, especially as I have talked about mental health, I do go see a counselor. I do have close friends that I talk to that can point me on the right track, and I have a pastor here that I work with, so I can talk to him anytime I want, basically. And so there is such importance in having community, and having community that you actually open up with. Because I think there's one thing to have friends to hang out with. It's quite another to actually open up with where you are in life, where your struggles are, and how they can support you, and how they can say, hey, like, kick my butt, and say, hey, you need to get out. You need to stop isolating, or things like that, because they know me and because I've allowed them to speak into my life. But I've also have to say the word. The word of God will never return void. I can never overread it. There is never a time where I can read the word and not get something new out of it. There are times that I do read the word and not get something new out of it, but that's because of me. There's always an opportunity to learn something new from Him, and it will always renew our minds. And so there are seasons in my life where I've been really great about that, and seasons where I have let it slide, as anyone probably has. And I definitely can tell the difference in those seasons of how my connection with God is, and how easily I can hear from Him. So,
I mean, in those seasons, has it always been easy to believe in Him and have faith, or what are the steps that you took to lead yourself back to Him and staying rooted and grounded?
That's a great question. I would say I had to ask for help, honestly. There were times where I always like to say I have faith, like I know God is there and know that He loves me, but I can find myself in such a dark spot where where I just feel like there is no answer, or there is no hope, and everything just feels like so heavy, and I don't always know even where that comes from. And so sometimes I can relate to that. I don't know how to get out of this. And so deep down, I feel like I do know that he's always listening. So honestly, I do cry out to him a lot, like I do, and I cuss at him too. So, I'm not afraid to tell him exactly what I'm feeling and how I'm going through it. And it doesn't always make me feel better, but I know he's there. So, but sometimes I have to just honestly ask for help. And that comes from the things like I was saying, the community counseling, things like that. And I'm one that is not against and believes in medicine as a viable option. It's not for everyone, and I understand those who don't. It's something that I have allowed to help me in my journey toward mental health.
It's so good. I mean, that leads me into this question. What advice would you give someone trying to find God and get to know them? Just something new for them. Just
get to know God. I'd say church is important. I don't know, who I'm talking to, but if you haven't stepped into a community of believers, there is something truly powerful about that. And walking into a church and you know what, finding a church where you know that you can connect with God, that might not be like the easiest first time thing, but you can try the churches and find where you find your fit, but don't stop looking for that fit, and don't stop just working to like get to know people in the faith. And so honestly, first step for me is find a church, because there's where you can find people that will help you understand who God is. And you can experience God in a way that is just different than anything else that I can really explain whenever you get to worship him together with other people. And then, there's just so much support that comes from that. So first, I would just say finding a church, but definitely getting into community being the main source of that.
That's good. And how has a worship pastor changed your life?
Oh gosh. Well, it's funny because I feel like I've just been doing it forever, but it's been a different experience here at Life Church, I will say, just because I said I've grown up. I've been doing this a long time. And so worship when I started was very different, especially as a woman, and leading in a more contemporary way. Church I grew up was hymns and things like that. So it's really changed a lot over the years. And so being a worship pastor has changed me. I think there's different seasons of each time where it just feels like a completely different job. Yeah. But ultimately what I've learned here is that my job is not worship pastor. My job is pastor who gets to worship and who gets to lead and sing and have fun and use music as a way to bring God glory. But here pastor comes first, and it's been actually a long journey for me to learn that, honestly. I've had to let go of a lot of ideas that I've had about what a pastor is and what a pastor looks like, in male or female. That has been I can say that other people view, I can't blame it on anybody else. Like, that's something that I saw modeled for me when I grew up, so I didn't fully walk into that identity. And so it's changed me so much over the past several years, really, in understanding that I'm not just someone who's singing songs. Yeah. But I am someone that is leading people to Christ. And and I don't have to do that through leading songs. I can do that in every other way possible, and that can be the cherry on top. Yes, that's beautiful. That leads me into maybe a little bit more light of a question, but what are some things that you do outside of church that keep you just grounded, and maybe your family? What are some things that you do to have fun? Yeah, absolutely. I am a homebody a lot. So honestly, when we quarantined, I was like, okay, I can do that. I'm a homebody. I love to be at home and spend time with my family, but I do love nature. And so one thing that I have had to do to become better in my walk and to be more intentional is to have that Sabbath time, which is a time where I am going to set aside to go just be in nature, because I feel like that's where another powerful way that I can experience God. And so I haven't succeeded at that a whole lot, but I try to go hiking, and I love running, and I love running outside. So when it's not super duper hot or when I can get up early enough, that's one of my favorite ways to just let off some steam, but it's also still connecting with God. Yeah. But I got 3 awesome kids that drive me crazy. So we get to spend a lot of time together. My daughter's 15. My son Truman is 11, and my youngest Graham is 8. So they keep us on our toes, and we're getting to do a lot of fun stuff together now that they're older. So I enjoy that.
That's good. And do you have any dreams or goals for the next 5-10 years of your life?
I love that. I love that question. Goals for me right now are, how can I follow God in my calling today? So I don't know what 5 years from now looks like. I hope that I'm doing this better. I hope that each and every year I am following him and serving him better. But for me right now, I don't know exactly what that looks like, and I'm okay with that. I'm just keeping one foot in front of the other, and just following where he leads. So yeah. So
good. Guys, I hope anybody that is listening can see why I get so inspired and just so touched by her worship and her ministry. And I just want to thank you so much, because I'm getting so emotional. The whole time I've been here, I don't know, I just feel like it's been a home because of y'all. And
man,
it really does mean a lot. And as my time and my season closes here, I don't know, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your journey with us, even if it wasn't as long as I hoped it would be. I know God has you on an amazing journey, and the time that you've been here has truly blessed our team, our worship team, as well as our church. And so you don't even know the impact that it's had and just what you mean to us too. So thanks for letting us in on your world.
No problem. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. This is Talks to Darius, Deon, and we'll see you later.